presented by DraftKings. I'm Megan Reyes. Joining me are Logan Hackett and our favorite WNBA analyst, Roz Golden-Witte. After 28 years, the New York Liberty won their first championship in franchise history. Let's start the show by taking a look at the moment they did it.
Carlton lobs it in, taken away by Phoebus, off to Stewart. 28 years in the making. The New York Liberty are WNBA champions. The original franchise.
So the moment this happened, I was actually watching on my phone outside my hotel waiting for a DoorDash. So I got to experience it on my phone on YouTube TV. But Roz, you have been by the Liberty side all season long, and you're also Queens born and raised. So what was it like for you being there and watching them lift the trophy?
You know, I immediately felt the enormity of the moment. And I think the context of, growing up in New York City, my mother not being an athlete herself, just being a woman who wanted her daughters to see female empowerment and opportunities through sports, taking me to a WNBA game in New York and having that exposure and being a fan growing up, seeing how long it took, seeing the streamers coming down from the ceiling. I happened to be on the court. I was in the tunnel waiting for the game to end and running out to the court. No matter who won, I was coming out there. And I happened to go straight into the direction of Teresa Weatherspoon, hugging and crying with Swin Cash. And she was also there with Angel Reese. And I was taking that video for our group, and I'm watching Spoon, and it really hits you. The history of this franchise, the drought of not winning, for so long, being one of the original franchises in the history of the WNBA. And then finally breaking through here. I did feel the enormity of it, what it meant, not only for this Liberty team, but for the franchise, what it means for the WNBA. And during a time when everything is just so amplified by the excitement and attention on women's sports overall, it was huge. It was big. It was so awesome.
Hearing you about it makes me a little emotional.
Right?
Well, let's talk about the game. So in a game where Sabrina went only 1 for 19 with 5 points, and Stewie went 4 for 15. I think the stat was the team overall were 2 for 23 from 3. How did the Liberty pull the game off?
Yeah, it's funny. I'm watching the game, and at one point down the stretch, I'm looking at a lineup, and it's guardless. There's no guards on the court. And I'm speaking with, fellow broadcasters and colleagues and friends. And I think the lineup was Stewie, Leo, Niara. I mean, I'm blanking right now, but the whole thing was all bigs and no guards. And I'm like, well, it makes sense. Nobody's hitting threes. I guess they were like, let's just go with size, and then also to think about the contributions that, bench players were making, reserve players were making. This was a game where what shined for the Liberty was organizational success, was scouting success, was putting together, coming off of the loss against the Aces last season, and putting together a strategy of what did that returning core group of starters need surrounding them to get them over the hump. And it was the heroics of Niara Sabally. It was the heroics of Leonie Phoebus. And I thought huge minutes, Kayla Thornton and other players who just throughout the course of this heavyweight battle in the finals stepped up. So I think depth shined. And look, you look at Sabrina Ionescu, she'll get flack for going 115. She still had 9 or 8 assists and rebounds. She had barely any 1 or 2 turnovers against a very physical and hard defense in the Lynx. Your shot may not be going down, but you still need to be solid up here and be a floor general for your team. And same thing for Stewie, came up with big free throws. So it was a great, gritty team win. What do you think?
I think that's the thing about box scores. They don't always tell the full storyline. But Logan, I want to get your thoughts on the other side of the ball. So Roz told us what went well for New York. I would love to know your reactions on what didn't go so great for Minnesota.
Oh, I think especially coming down the stretch when they lost that lead. I mean, they had a pretty good lead. I remember watching at one point and I'm like, oh, I had a parlay going for an NFL game, and I was low-key like, I can possibly go check on that. So I think honestly, all that, sure, there's the controversy about the calls and everything, but at the end of the day, they were up, they were on the Liberty's home court. They kind of had it in their hands, and it didn't really work out for them. Also, Alana Smith, if you're watching this, I hope you're okay. But she was doing well, but when they come down to injuries, I mean, their depth was not as deep and performing as much as the Liberty's was. If you would have told me that the Liberty would not have won that championship without Nyara Sabally, like literally 2 weeks ago when we were having the conversation about depth, I'd be like, well, I don't know if that's actually going to happen. But seeing her come on and seeing the confidence that Sandy had in her lineup to put on a lineup that she's never even practiced with before and rely on people like Nyara, who is technically her second year in the league, that's really saying something. And I don't think that I don't think Minnesota really had that depth down the stretch.
And I do want to follow up on your great points about depth. And earlier, what I was saying about the big lineup, I have my scribble notes from the game. So the lineup, there's actually, during the game, I take a lot of notes. I'm old school, I handwrite things, and it's like, guardless lineup of exclamation point. And it's literally Jonquel Jones, Leonie Phoebish, Kayla Thornton, Nyara Sabally, and Stewie was on the court. And there were things we never saw before, but that's what it takes sometimes to win a championship, and that's the luxury the Liberty have. The fact that Coach Sandy Brandello trusted her depth enough to go to them. The season's on the line, baby. There's nothing more than this. And she trusted her depth. A lot of times, guys, when it's playoffs, men's, women's basketball, NBA, WNBA, college ball, and the pressure is high, coaches shorten that leash. Coaches, oh my goodness, all of a sudden that seventh player off the bench don't even see the court. So it's actually really says a lot about Coach Sandy and her trust of this team, the development of the entire roster over the course of the season, that for all the marbles, she was like, we're going to give you a shot. And also that those players were ready.
Well, I love this. I love your thoughts on this topic. And I want to continue on a thought that, Logan, you actually started with, was the controversial call. And as we know, Lynx head coach Cheryl Reeve had her own theory of why the Liberty won. Let's take a look at what she had to say.
I know all the headlines will be Reeve cries foul. Bring it on, right? Bring it on. Because it was stolen from us. Bring it on. Well, we talked about it, we know we could have done some things, right? But you shouldn't have to overcome to that extent. This ain't that hard. Officiating it's not that hard. I tell these guys, for whatever reason it didn't work out, right? It just doesn't feel right that you lose a series with that level of discrepancy,
Well, as we know, losing a championship and having a post-game press conference immediately after, the emotions are high. And so I would love to know from both of you, I'll start with you, Logan. What are your thoughts on what Cheryl had to say?
I completely understand it, especially in the moment. I mean, you pushed it to game 5, you had the lead, and the way that it ended for it to go to overtime wasn't ideal. I mean, that would be the first thing that I would be mad at. The whole team would be mad at, honestly. So I get it in that sense, but at the same time, as I just said, you had the whole 5 games, you had the whole game. There's a reason why it wasn't that you didn't win at the end of it. So maybe she cooled off and was able to kind of see the, I guess, reality of the situation in the end of it. But I do understand where her emotions and probably the team's emotions came from in that moment.
Before we go ahead and look at the actual call, Roz, what are your thoughts on Cheryl's comments?
Yeah, I think it's understandable immediately after the game, and especially for such a hard-fought battle and such an emotional one, to react and feel that much emotion around it. Like, full stop. I think either side. We've heard both coaches within this series complain publicly to the media about the refs and the foul calls. But what that also says to me is like, hey, it went in favor of one team or another throughout the series. There were certainly things that the Lynx got a favorable whistle or bounce on. And I think there is a sportsmanship aspect of this that I do understand people, pushing back at coach. And especially after the game, I'm kind of like, all right, everybody's got their emotions. This is sports. But to continue to carry on well after the game, whether it's through social media or in closeout interviews, I think now that's where it's you've got to be able to be professional and give credit, because it was a 5-game series. You know, if we even look at game 5, the game went to overtime. There were a few players who perhaps came out hot for the Lynx in the first half, and in the second half were quiet or struggled through the game. So like, there are things that you could look at as the Lynx and say, hey, we weren't that great. Or, you know, there were games where you gave up 26 points on 20 turnovers. Or you could look at the Liberty, who made mistakes all through the series. This is sports. You could look at the Liberty, who, you know, star players didn't have a good shooting night in game 5, but role players played out of their mind. X factors are what changes series. So, you know, I think for sports fans, it's what makes it interesting. For the conspiracy theorists, you know, they love that on Twitter. And I think, you know, look, a W is a W is a W. A win is a win is a win. And it was fitting for this heavyweight battle where both teams were awesome, that the win was gritty and hard and scrappy and, you know, came down to like possessions.
Okay, well, let's take a look at the call that led to Cheryl Reeve saying the championship was stolen. All right, so how it goes, the Lynx believe this was not a foul, and a lot of people also pointed out that Stewie may have traveled. So was this a foul, or should the travel have been called?
I don't know much about basketball rules. I mean, I know a clear foul when I see one, and I cannot see one there. But I will say that when I was watching it back, when people started calling out Stewie's travel, I was like, oh, whoa, that is very apparent. But Roz, what do you think? Because you played, you know the game so much better than me.
Yeah, you know what's so crazy is, again, like where I was during this part of the game. Like literally, I'm getting ready to get on the court regardless of, you know, who wins, and we're going to cover the championship. So what I can see from under the tunnel is the Jumbotron and like pieces of heads on the court. But what I remember from the moment was like just that the foul happened, and then that Stewie was on the free throw line again. And for me, what I was thinking, like as a basketball player, was just like, boy, I hope she, you know, it would be awful if she missed the free throws again and like had to feel that horrible feeling, you know? So I was like, oh gosh, I was just like hopeful that Stewie would be able to step up, you know, and she did and knock them down. She was ready to redeem herself, you know? So, that's kind of the viewpoint I had. And then I was covering the championship at that point, the celebrations, the locker rooms, the champagne. So by the time, and then I, as a New Yorker, went out with my friends to celebrate as well. So it wasn't until the very next day that I actually like scrolled through Twitter and Threads, and I was like, oh, it was drama. I was like, oh, LeBron tweeted? I was like, oh, Isaiah Thomas has smoke. Like everybody was coming at conspiracy around this. And it was like crazy to see how much drama there was. But I'll say this. I think there was a bump, but if you're looking at the hand, you might be like, oh, you know, it's a tough call. I hate any game where the refs are a part of, you know, such a huge historical moment. But I will say, in watching the replay, for whatever reason, that clip does look like there was foot motion in the play before. But again, you're talking about one play over the course of a 5-game series that went to overtime. It's hard to make it just about that one moment, because it's really not.
Well, coming up after the break, we look ahead to the 2025 WNBA season. We'll be right back.
So I just blew past me saying I was Wolverine. Chris.
Yeah, what was that about?
Adamantium, yes. So I thought I was 1,000% sure I had at least a serious sprained ligament in my knee. Went up for a jump ball in the end zone because it was underthrown. And
you hear that, Anthony?
Oh no.
Wow. Wow. Quarterback.
How do you know he was my quarterback?
Wide receiver controversy in the locker room.
I mean, there's video of it. It's obvious. And so I went up for a jump ball, and this is where Three people went up. I was one of them. But some other dude just decided to back into me with his butt while I was coming down, locked my left leg up against me as I was coming down.
Interesting defensive tactics.
It's terrible. And as I'm landing, I landed on my right foot because my left leg was just knee was just screaming. It was just lightning bolts of pain, and I was like, I'm done. So I like hopped around. A minute later, felt fine. Felt absolutely fine. I was jumping on it by itself. Went back in the game 4 or 5 plays. Later that night, terrible. Like I was 1,000% convinced something was torn. It was just so much pain, super swollen. Anytime I couldn't straighten it. Anytime I tried to like move left to right, it would like crazy pain.
So adrenaline.
Crane.
By the time I got to my MRI yesterday,
Oh man.
barely felt anything.
Wow. What about your
And-
finger, though?
The finger, this one's never coming back.
That's the issue with the Wolverine part where you
You're
tell me
right.
my knee was
No,
great,
you're
but then I
right.
look at your finger and I'm like, which way is
Maybe
it
I'm
pointing?
only
I don't know.
Wolverine from the waist down because this thing,
Hey,
I
yo.
was just telling Chris that this thing
crazy.
is never getting.
Now you're Wolverine during Logan.
Cut it off. We'll see what happens. No.
Now I'm picturing the hands thing out of his feet. Like, you know, like how like Wolverine has the
So he's just got claws on his toes.
the great toe, except they're all just metal.
Yeah.
I just started
Also
typing
your
again
dick.
with this.
What?
Does one come out or multiple?
no, one. Just one.
Oh.
Hey, Billy.
Yeah.
I needed someone to get it there. Billy got Billy
Move
was there
on
for
off
me.
after
No, we
that.
got it.
Move
Just-
on.
I wanted to let you have it a little longer than anybody else.
Size doesn't matter when it's sharp.
Yeah. Welcome to Mystery Crate.
Oh, hey, yeah.
Ouch.
Anyway.
Go ahead, Chris.
Hunter Renfro kind of just disappeared.
Yeah, he's not coaching high school.
Yeah,
football.
no,
I
he's
looked
not.
it up.
He
Not
got-
coaching high school.
He got
football
released on
right
March 13th of this year, never signed, and he had a 1,000-yard season in 2021, 103 catches.
now. I wish I had his number.
Yeah,
He had a
Do
great
what
year.
with?
he had a great year. Yeah, one.
And I thought he was going to
Damn,
be,
sorry.
the future Cooper Cup.
He got
and then he just disappears.
He got a 2-year deal in 2022 for 2 years, $32 million.
Damn,
That
that's
was
a
it.
good deal.
Yeah, right. And then he had, but significant drop off. I think he must have gotten injured in 2022 because he only played 10 games.
I think he had a bad concussion.
I was going to say, is he one of those? Is just like 30 mil? I'm good. I don't need to hit my head anymore. That would be.
That would be me.
That's
a
me
smart
too.
beat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2 for 32.
That was,
I am out of here.
that was Channing Crowder too, right?
Channing?
He had that 2 contracts and was like, I'm done. At 30,
Gator.
I think. Yeah. Gator.
So can I tell you something that I'm absolutely done with? Here, let me rephrase. I'm just annoyed with, all right? Chopsticks. Why did an entire group of people decide that evolution on eating would stop with 2 sticks? Like, it's so annoying to have to, like, okay, let's just say it was thousands of years ago. You start with chopsticks. Okay, great. This is the best way I could eat. There's so many better innovations on chopsticks, and and you can't like serve me a steak with an unsliced steak and give me a pair of chopsticks. So it's like, what are we supposed to do there? And then there's people that get shamed because they don't know how to use them because they weren't taught how to use chopsticks when they were a child. And there's people who shame me because I occasionally stab something with the
but
chopstick because I don't want to have to deal with
The
it.
people that grew up doing it can eat anything with chopsticks. Like, I know you can't. I can't. I'm with you.
Have you ever seen somebody slice a steak with chopsticks?
No, but I've seen.
It has to be served that
I've
way.
seen like eating ramen
Yeah.
with just chopsticks.
Ramen, rice.
Makes it more
They do have
difficult.
the
Rice.
They do have the spoon with the ramen.
Right. And so that's another thing. Why stop with that utensil? Like you use the spoon for the soup. Why not use another utensil for the rest of it? And I refuse to be shamed for using other utensils at an Asian restaurant.
Oh, you can't use a fork at an Asian.
Izzy, have you been to like a Samurai or like a Benihana
Yes.
where they do
Casual.
it for the little kids? They'll put like a chopstick thing and then they'll take the wrapper that the chopstick thing comes in
I
and a
have seen
rubber
that.
band and they put it on the top
Right.
and they like tie it up so little kids can use the chopstick. That's how you teach
Grab
them.
a fork.
My daughter has one of those.
Why, I'd rather teach them what
I
to
can-
eat than how
Do you
to
want me to
eat.
teach you here? Give me
Magic
2 pence.
fingers and stuff.
Give me 2
What if
pence.
you're like underdeveloped? You're just not going to eat?
Yeah.
What if you got crazy fingers like me?
Well, here, I'm going to teach you how
If
to
we're
use
ever
them.
at an Asian restaurant together and you ask for a fork, I'm leaving.
Yeah, so
I'm just
what you
getting
want to
up
do
and
is
I'm walking out.
You want to place
Really?
the
You're not gonna
first
eat?
one underneath your middle finger, right? And then the second the thumb holds it in the middle, right?
That's a different way than I learned.
Roy, you chopstick?
No, I'm a fork guy.
Oh God.
So you put it on your middle finger, your thumb holds the 2
Classic
together.
Fuentes, good at everything.
And then your first one is kind of like the part of your jaw that moves. So you go up and all right, let me get this here, bam, and you grab it.
Right.
So it's
now
like
teach that to a 3-year-old. And that's the only way they know how to eat. Like, that's a lot of trouble. Just give me a shovel and let me scoop that into my mouth.
Trouble.
Trouble.
It's a Taylor Swift song.
Nah, I thought that was cold.
I thought that was Bernie.
I didn't know what it
I thought that was Bernie Mac.
What was your fave?
22. The whole Red, there was a 3-song stretch of the Red era. It was 22, and then the one where she's like, I knew you were trouble when you walked
How long is
in."
the concert?
And then she like did this thing, and like smoke came up right when she would like, ever. Oh, it was really good, man.
How long is the concert?
Oh, too long. Yeah, could have cut about 10 to 12 songs from that thing.
Just making sure.
I just need all. I just
cut
need
it
the
with
bangers.
chopsticks.
Just
You
need the
know
bangers.
why it was too long for you? You didn't pay for it.
And also,
If you had
just-
paid for it, you'd be like,
No, it
only
would've been
5 hours.
longer.
Also,
Longer.
she played
Exactly.
46 songs. Tighten it up.
What's
No
the encore
way.
situation like?
Excuse
Did she
me?
pretend that she needed to,
nights.
or did she just keep going?
There was no encore. It's kind of just like the last.
What is there to encore? She did 46 songs.
Right. She ends with the Midnight's era, I believe, with the Karma song. It's like one of her most recent albums. The one that's like Karma. I forget the Karma song, whatever.
I think you nailed it.
Zero desire for that.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Zero.
If I would have gotten tickets, I would have sold them in a heartbeat.
Yep.
The idea of
That would have been a move. of me.
leaving a
Sorry,
concert.
Sorry, Graceland.
Power move.
But we are.
Daddy's making some money.
We are making some
money.
and I'm going to still need videos to send my dad, so we're going to need to.
This
Pretend
isn't
like we were there.
That's funny. This is an age thing for me because immediately I go to leaving the event.
We left early.
That's fine.
I had to beat traffic.
I'm definitely not paying.
I was
for
not.
It.
It was like Sunday night. I had to work, and I was just like.
Weren't there people who
missed-
like walked 2 miles to catch an Uber, but there
I
was
saw
like
that.
nowhere to?
I saw a lot of the craziness afterwards, so that's why we were for sure. Luckily, I'm a big look at the playlist, the set list, so I know what songs are coming when, and I was fine missing the final 3 songs.
What do you guys think about that? If you're cheating and reading the set list before a concert,
Tony,
is
you
it cheating or
set-listed?
do you want?
You go to a
No,
concert?
I like to just be for the first time hearing whatever the concert is, like whatever the artist intended. I don't want to go ahead
You
and
don't want
look
to
up.
pre-plan bathroom breaks, like when I need a refill.
No, like I'm good.
There's nothing better
just
than
hold it.
knowing you have a 2-song gap that you don't care about in a concert where you can just stress-free.
Leave your daughter alone?
No, my wife's here.
Oh.
You can go stress-free, go to the bar, get another drink, go to the bathroom. I love plotting out at a concert when I'm going to go to this.
See, I go to so few concerts that the concerts I do go to, I know every song and I like every song, so I don't
Right.
need to check like, oh, I don't really like this song, I don't really like that song. And like
Yeah.
realistically, the only concert I've been to since the pandemic, outside of things that I was forced to go to, like Alanis Morissette, which I didn't want to be at, are the two Bad Bunny shows. And like I know every song and I like every song, so like I didn't really need to look at the set list.
Yeah.
Never been to a Pitbull show?
No. Never been to a Pitbull show.
I almost refuse to believe that during even Bad Bunny, who I know is like your guy,
Right.
There's not like 1 or 2 songs that you're just like, okay, I've heard these.
The thing is, remember, like in concerts, they don't usually sing the entire song.
Yeah, that's
they'll hit
true.
like the first verse and a half.
Yeah.
Let the hook play, and then they flip it to another song.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
if there is a song that I'm like, this one's okay, it's not long enough for me to either go to the bathroom or go get a drink or do this or do that.
Billy, you I don't know if you've been to a Pitbull concert or not, but you run his stadium. You
sound
work
like an
inside
idiot.
his stadium.
I've been to a Pitbull concert.
Okay, rephrase. How many Pitbull concerts have you been to?
I've probably been to nearly 20 Pitbull concerts.
What?
I would say maybe 15 to 20.
Wow.
But like before he was
Impressive.
famous then? Because that's crazy.
Yeah, well, it's because there was a time, and I've said this before, but like there was a time that like you could just like trip and fall into a Pitbull concert in Miami. Like it used to happen.
Oh, it's
all
at
the
Dolphin
time.
Mall.
Yeah, like I saw Pitbull after Marlins games probably 4 times.
Oh, okay, hold on. Yes, then I have.
Not
Then I
even
have.
planned. I
When it
saw
was Mr.
Pitbull at
305.
Calle Ocho like 3 or 4 times.
That's right. I might have accidentally
I
seen
saw
him at a
Pitbull at
Marlins game.
FIU concerts like 2 or 3 times for like
Oh, yeah,
homecoming or
true.
whatever. Like then I actually went to Pitbull concerts. I saw Pitbull at Universal like 3 times. Like
Does
you
Pitbull
just
go to the games now that the stadium's named after him or no?
And was he there the other night?
He's a busy guy.
Pitbull's schedule didn't allow for Pitbull to attend the last game.
That was this week, right?
That
How
was
it?
this week, yeah. Pitbull wasn't able to make it. It was also rainy. It was Vice night. It was a boat on the field.
Billy, the boat.
didn't- yeah.
I have something to say about the boat.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was watching your stuff.
Hey.
Very fun on social. Good job.
Thanks.
So you were by the boat. Did you see the branding on the boat? It said like FYI yachts, whatever. Like,
yeah.
Okay, so funny story. I used to work for that company.
Really?
Yeah, Florida Yachts International. They used to be out of Coconut Grove, right next to Monty's.
Okay.
So they're like flagship store or whatever. They're basically like a boat dealer. Like
What'd you do?
So I didn't do anything.
Who needs a boat here?
That's a great job.
I came to work.
I've used
Yes.
a boat barker. Hey,
Like Tommy-
boats here.
No,
Like
so,
Tommy
so
from
like
Martin.
Come get your boats.
they're a boat brokerage. So what they would do is they go out and find like people that want boats. Like, hey, Izzy's
Rich
got
people.
a boat. Let's see if we can upsell Izzy from whatever he's got to like maybe like a 54 Azimuth. And Izzy's got a ton of money, so it's like,
That's a
yeah,
big
dude,
jump.
yeah, I'm gonna do a 54 Azimuth for sure. How much is it? $2 million? Yeah, I got that. No worries. So they're trying to sell mega yachts and stuff like that. I used to work. I'm trying to think exactly what my title was. I was a content writer for their website.
You were a guy.
Content writer. for a
Content
website.
writer.
Yeah.
Tony Collada, you guy.
I was a big vibes guy,
Guy
when I got
who
into the
works.
office. Right. So this was 20
Content writer.
Yeah, I was a content writer for the website. So like all the boats that they have. So you remember Elaine's job in for
Interviewing
Peterman?
No. Or Pendant Publishing. Which one was it?
No. With Jay Peterman, where she has to create narratives
the stories
around
for the clothes.
shirts and the clothes, whatever. I was doing that, but for boats.
Wow.
So I had
Your
to go and
first creative job.
sit there and be like 54 Azimuth. Wow.
Pitbull was on this boat last week.
Open,
Like, making shit up.
Are you a fisherman? Do you love the open ocean?
Catch the open draft as you pull into the marina.
love this.
Exactly. So I had to do that. But half the time, like they were moving boats so fast that I would have to like do it quickly. So it'd be like, all right, these 10 boats came in, you got to write something. And I'd write it in like 10 minutes. And then the entire rest of the day, I'd just be like hanging out, just like kind of looking around.
So when
shaking
you
hands,
saw the
kissing
boat
babies.
on FIU's field, you were immediately thinking content? Like you're writing a description in your head for this boat?
No, I saw the name and I was like, oh my God, that's the same place that I work for. Funny enough, this is in 2000 and I want to say maybe 15,
Probably
2016. I would listen to the show every day on my drive into work. And I was like, damn, it'd be cool one day to be on the show. And then fast forward all these years later.
Billy used to work at Victoria's Secrets. Billy, what was your experience like at the FIU game?
Well, now I'm on the website and I'm looking up like the profiles of these boats. So like I'm looking right now at a.
They still don't have my content on there, do they?
I don't. I mean, I would think that they
boat.
got rid
Are
of
you
it.
into fishing?
They haven't sold that boat that you. When
So
you
I'm
used to
looking
work
at a
I don't think it's
Benetti
gonna
yacht
sell.
right now.
Ooh, those are nice.
Superior comfort. Indulge in the lap of luxury as you relax and unwind with the sumptuous interiors of a Benetti yacht. Impeccably designed living spaces, lavish cabins, and state-of-the-art amenities ensure that your every moment on board
That's
is
no Tony writing.
steeped in comfort and elegance.
So that's what I would do.
There's no soul in that, though.
There isn't.
Nah,
but
there's
a
no
lot of it was soulless.
You know what there is? Unmatched durability.
Oh.
Crafted with unwavering dedication to quality, every Benetti yacht is a testament
Benettis
to
are great yachts,
enduring
by the way.
Tony
strength
was
and
nodding his head with
reliability.
such pride.
We were-
like,
From
wow.
Like, I may have written that. I don't know. I may have written that.
Now we're getting to where Tony may have written something.
Oh, boy.
This shit's sick.
From the sturdiest materials to the finest craftsmanship, these yachts are built to withstand the test of time and the elements.
Wow.
They
Did you
are.
get to write them in Spanish?
Goosebumps.
No, just English. Just English.
Yeah.
Wow.
By the way, we talked earlier in the week about yachts and whether it's a yacht if it has a bathroom in it. Didn't you text me that that's not true?
That's nonsense. I don't know where Mike got that. I think he said later, a friend told me that, and I just believed it. But no, it's a length thing. Like, my boat technically has a yacht. Technically has a bathroom.
I was going to say, I've been on your boat. Don't remember
if
the
it's
bathroom.
just the front, if you open it and walk down, you pee in a bucket and you empty the bucket outside. That's a bathroom. Goddamn.
Wait, your boat is
Not a
technically a
yacht.
lot?
No, it's not a yacht.
I think that's just a storage
In
area
Mike's-
that you guys pee in.
Just
It's a bathroom that we use as a storage area.
I
is
was
what
going to
that
say,
is.
are you sure it's a bathroom? I don't want to
100%.
question you on your boat, but it doesn't. I've been on your boat. It's like the thing you lift up and you like store shit in.
Yeah, the thing in front of the whatever.
Yeah,
the bow.
the description didn't
The stern,
sound like
the
a
bow,
like a
one of
bathroom.
the
Oh,
two.
it's just a bucket
This
you
guy
piss
knows
in and then you take it out. Yeah, it seemed like a bathroom.
But we just have a bunch of shit in there, like cushions and
Life jackets,
vests, and
very
stuff like
important.
that.
Good to
It's
know
a
you-
length thing. I'm seeing anywhere from 25 to 30 to 40 to 46 feet. 46 seems
That's
very
small though.
specific.
Benetti,
know.
Benetti, a nice 65 Benetti.
Oh, yeah.
Good to know that you
Sturdiest
marinated
materials.
where you keep your
Stands the
seat
test of time.
cushions.
I read that it has
Okay,
to
those
do
are-
with having a living quarters that can be used overnight.
No, it's a length thing. It's purely a
is.
length
A little
thing.
bit about everything.
Chris,
Yeah?
nobody has ever urinated or defecated in that bathroom.
You don't know
That's
that.
the whole point.
You don't know that.
You didn't even know it was a bathroom.
I shit in
There's
there,
no
though.
chance you did.
I thought I was in the closet.
You ban people from using that bathroom?
Of course, it banned people from using the bathroom. Would you want a bunch of piss in your bathroom? And then if you're in a sandbar or something and somebody goes in there, then they have to empty it out. Then you actually see the urine going into the water. No, I'd rather just let it happen under the water
Naturally.
where nobody knows.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Like we're all in the pool, like the lazy river.
Ugh.
We're all peeing in it.
We're all in the nest.
You know,
Nah, it just brought me back.
we're
to
all
that
family.
smell. Oh.
We'll be back.
Welcome back into Good Follow. Now let's look ahead to 2025 with a new game called Reboot, Reload, Rerun. We love our games here. And in this game, I will tee up a team and our job is to determine what they should do next. Should they blow the whole thing up and reboot their team, make some big moves this offseason and reload, or do they stay the course and rerun with what they've got? And we don't have to all agree this time. So you two ready?
Yep.
Ready.
Okay, I think we're going to do this good this time. Our last two go-arounds at games haven't been our strongest, but this one is on our side. Let's start with the Las Vegas Aces, who finished second in the Western Conference. The Aces' quest for a three-peat came to an end this year in a Game 4 semifinals loss to the Liberty. They went 12-8 in conference play and 27-13 overall with the help of MVP Asia Wilson. Should the Aces reboot, reload, or rerun?
I'm in between reload and rerun. I think a small reload.
In what way?
If they couldn't three-peat with the team that they have and the team that they got the first two with pretty much, then I think we need some changes.
For me, I think it's like a mini reload on the supporting cast. I mean, we're rerunning the core four group, the Asia, Chelsea, Kelsey, and Jackie. But, you know, this is a group that needs more size, needs more rebounding, needs better defense, needs better health. And I think that they're with that kind of retooling of the supporting cast, they'll be right back there fighting for a championship again, just like they did this season, but they'll be a top team for it.
Any other thoughts from you, Logan? I mean, Roz kind of touched on it, but depth was an issue for them this season.
Yeah, that was going to be my first answer is they need to work on depth, especially because we've been seeing teams who like their bench players are really coming in clutch. And I feel like they rely on their core so much that the others aren't really up there on the same level. So I'd like to see that happen. And once they get depth, I think they will definitely be running it back.
And look, the Aces have been historically not deep for the past few seasons now, and they've been able to overcome that. But the rest of the league is getting better. And the teams know what to do against them at this point. I think it's time to re-up and look at the success. I'll use an example the New York Liberty had coming off of their loss last season in the WNBA finals to the Aces. What did GM Jonathan Kolb do? Retooled the roster to support that core group and that bench, that second unit. The Niara Sabalis, the Leonie Phoebushes were huge in helping the Liberty get over the hump and win a championship this season. If they can pull that off in the Aces this offseason and find the right pieces that make sense, they're right back there. I mean, you know, this is and as long as that core group gets the proper healing and rest that they need, because, you know, Chelsea was unhealthy. And I think there have been players on that team that went through a lot, not only on the court, but off the court. And, you know, this would be a really important offseason to just gather yourself and come back ready to go.
Well, let's move on to the Eastern Conference. We have the Indiana Fever. The Fever took third in conference play, going 11-9 and 20-20 overall, and made the playoffs for the first time since 2016. Current Rookie of the Year Caitlin Clark led the team with 19.2 points per game, and Aaliyah Boston led in blocks and rebounds. So, should the Fever reboot, reload, or rerun?
Roz, what do you think on this one?
I mean, I like that young core group rerunning that back. They've got something really special in Aaliyah Boston and Caitlin Clark. And the two of them together looked really great by the end of the season. They found their rhythm, and individually they were excellent. Obviously, you run everything back with Caitlin Clark. She was excellent. That second half of the season in particular was explosive, historic. Her entire season was, we'll have to see what Kelsey Mitchell does, but that's a huge key in having her back. I think for the team overall, though, they could use some reinforcements inside, helping with size, helping with rebounding, and helping defensively. So I guess the answer is they already, much like the Aces, I think they have a core that works. You reload, a mini reload in strategic positions, but I think they got a core that is going to be one of the best in the WNBA in these years to come. We're looking at this is that next generation.
I think they need a bit of a little bit more of a bigger reload, just building around those players though. But as you said, like once they can get the whole team around them and then playing off of Caitlin and Aaliyah, potentially Kelsey, then yeah, they're definitely gonna have a shot, especially with Caitlin like driving that car.
Well, like you said, Roz, for everyone, key free agent is Kelsey Mitchell. So we'll see what Indiana does there with them. But we're going with a mini to major reload. But now let's look at a team in the middle of the pack this year, the Phoenix Mercury. 10-10 in conference play, 19-21 overall this year under head coach Nate Tibbetts, finishing 4th in their division, and a potential retirement of Diana Taurasi. Should the Mercury reboot, reload, or rerun?
I'm going with reboot, to be honest. I think they tried to have too many stars, offensive stars, the people that are going to go get the points on their team this year. But the way that they're working together, it's just not working for the team. It wasn't really working on defense, and obviously it wasn't getting it done. As much as I like them all together, I think they maybe tried to do a bit too much. I'm not too sure, because when you look at other super teams, you still have big names, but they all play different roles. And I feel like a lot of these players were kind of playing similar roles. So yeah, reboot.
Yeah. I think, we have to wait and hear from Diana Taurasi, and the franchise is patiently waiting as well. I mean, her decision changes everything, regardless if she stays or goes. But if Diana Taurasi does retire, you are immediately in a reboot. If you didn't know, if Diana Taurasi says, I'm done, DT, I'm walking away from the game, whatever franchise she was on is rebooting, because now you're talking about culturally stepping into a new era, into a new identity, into a chance to really think about like, what does the Mercury look like moving forward? And it gives you the room to make a new roster, to try new things. You have Coach Tibbetts, who's a brand new coach. Now he can really, perhaps build out a vision alongside the GM and Nick Uren, and really build out what they want to do for the franchise moving forward. Much like if you remember Kobe with the Lakers at the end, Diana Taurasi, very similar in the sense that they have earned the opportunity here to take their time on their decision. They put butts in seats. They are the franchise. They are the GOATs. They are greatest of all time type players. And at the end though, and I say this, the words like softly here, in some ways it holds the franchise hostage on their way out, in the sense of like, it's hard to move forward until you make room for what your future identity and vision is with them moving out. So this is a really key moment in franchise history for the Phoenix Mercury, and it really rests on what Diana Taurasi decides.
Well, other than the potential of retirement of Diana Taurasi, another key free agent to look out for is Brittany Griner when we're looking at the Mercury. But let's move on to another team. We'll look at someone who finished middle of the range, and that's the Seattle Storm. They took 3rd in the Western Conference, going 13-7 and 25-15 overall, with Jewel Lloyd leading in points per game at 19.7. Let's also not forget the Storm had Skylar Diggins-Smith, Ezzy Magbagor, and Nneka Ogwumike. Should the Storm reboot, reload, or rerun?
Oh my gosh. I think I'm going to go with reload on this one. Yeah, maybe like another mini reload to build around, like, once again, that core that they had last year. I mean, their record, sorry, can you say their record again? 25 and
They
30?
were 25-15 overall.
25 and 15. For some reason in my head, it doesn't seem like that. It seemed like they had a bit like worse of a season, especially because before him, we were talking about them kind of competing with the Liberty and the Aces up there, and that's not really what we saw from them. So yeah, I think a reload they would really benefit from that.
Yeah, and I think so too. I think one, we have to see what Nneka Ogwumike, where she's going to end up. That's huge. And whether she's there, anywhere Nneka is, that team is immediately better. She's had an all WNBA season, one of her best seasons of her career, but I think it flew under the radar because of the kind of middle success that the Seattle Storm did. With Gabby Williams, every season it's kind of hard to know, is she going to be available, in the US or not? Is she going to want to play, or can she? I think Jewel Lloyd, there some hard questions, need to be presented in that she hasn't had an efficient season this season for sure. And she's their franchise, or she's, one of the players they're looking to build around. She must have a better season next year. It can't carry on like this. So there's pressure there. I think Skylar Diggins-Smith will bust out next season. She really used that Olympic break and bust out in the second half of this season. And we saw, like, once she got her lungs and legs and conditioning under her, she was so much improved. So I think, like, next year, there'll be a lot of growth for this team, but I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some movement. I wouldn't be surprised at all. And I wouldn't be mad at a mini reboot,
All right, for our last team, you all know I'm a California girl, so let's look at the Los Angeles Sparks. The Sparks were last in the conference, going 8-32 overall, which was the worst season in franchise history. They also fired head coach Kurt Miller, and number 2 overall pick Cameron Brink was out most of the season with a torn ACL. Should the Sparks reboot, reload, or rerun? And for context, 2 of their key free agents are Kia Nurse and Ari McDonald.
Reboot it. That's all I have to say. Keep some players, like keep Cam in there. She deserves to play as she was drafted, and because she didn't get to play much last year. Reboot. I want to see a completely different team, honestly.
Yeah, and I think, the core that you have to build around is really exciting. Like the supporting cast, you can plug them in. But again, this is one of those teams where, like, the future is bright. Cameron Brink, hopefully she comes back in a full, healthy, and also fast manner that, allows her to be back for the season, and hopefully no complications. And Rakia Jackson had an incredible rookie season. And so you've got this great core of talent, of youthful talent. Don't forget, the Sparks might end up with the top draft pick because they were so poor. What if Paige Beckers is in LA? Like, all of a sudden you've got this really incredibly talented, star power-packed crew in LA. I mean, the potential is huge. And so I think this is really where your GM shines, and putting the right veteran pieces around this group, and, an original, historic, legacied franchise in the Sparks has all the potential to be great, so I'm excited.
All right, we're voting full reboot, which I think might have been our first full reboot of the game, but I'm with both of you on all of your answers. Cosign 100%. But that's it for our game of reboot, reload, or rerun. Coming up, I reveal my DraftKings picks of the week, and Logan shares her latest good follow. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Good Follow. Before we get into our weekly picks, our partners at DraftKings have an offer that's perfect for any game day. Right now, new customers who bet $5 will instantly get $250 in bonus bets. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and sign up using promo code GoodFollow. That's $250 in bonus bets to spend on parlays, live betting, or picking straight up winners after betting just $5. And if sports betting is not yet available in your state, you can still join in on all the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy and have the shot to win cash prizes. Again, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code GoodFollow for $250 in bonus bets instantly after betting just $5. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Okay, now it's time for this week's DraftKings Sportsbook picks. The NWSL regular season comes to a close, and the Houston Dash are set to take on Bay FC at home. Bay FC secured 3 crucial points with a 1-0 win against NC Courage thanks to a late goal from Abby Dahlkemper, keeping Bay FC's playoff hopes alive. Bay currently sit in 8th place with 31 points, and a win or draw against Houston would secure their spot in the playoffs. With so much hope on the line for Bay FC in their inaugural season and Houston's struggling season, I'm picking Bay FC to get the 3 points on the road. I'm also looking out for Asisat Oshala, who has 7 goals this season after joining Bay FC from FC Barcelona. And on the other side of the ball, vets Abby Dahl-Kemper and Caprice Sidasco will have to frustrate Houston's offense. Logan, what are your keys for Bay FC to keep their playoff hopes alive?
I feel like I say this every week, but it is crucial that they score goals, like lots of goals, because as we know, the tiebreaker, as we'll come up to, the tiebreaker is going to be with goals. So they really need to get that number up, but I honestly don't think they'll have that hard of a time doing it, given that they're playing Houston, who hasn't won in a fair amount of time and hasn't really had a great season.
Well, and also, like, I wish I had prepared the stat prior to this, but there was a point in the season, well into the season, where Bay FC hadn't drawn a game. They were either losing games or winning games. And to your point, like, some of them were just like, we just needed more goals. And it's always such a scary moment when it comes to playoffs, I think, unlike any other sport, when it comes down to, like, you could be right there and it could come down to you just didn't score enough goals or whatever the tiebreaker may be.
Yeah, I was looking at their recent games on, I think, Monday, and it was either like 1-0 or like 2-0, or they were losing 1-0. Like, they were not getting numbers on the board. And especially with the teams at the top, they at least have a few games where it's like 4 goals or even 3. Like, it's not that bad. But also when it comes down to that, they're going to have to be great on defense, because once again, they can't have any goals scored against them. And you don't want everything like canceling out and they just end up breaking even again.
Well, let's look at the rest of the competition, because if Racing Louisville win their last game against San Diego and Bay FC loses, they would end up tied on points, because right now in the standings, Racing Louisville are right below them. So, and like you said, they would actually take the tiebreaker due to the 11 goal differential. So how do you think this is going to play out with Louisville?
I have no clue. Honestly, in true NWSL fashion, Louisville would lose and then Bay would lose or something like that. But San Diego is a tricky team because they have some wins over some like decently good teams, especially the ones in the middle of the pack. But then on the other side, Louisville has good wins, and on paper, they should be beating them. So what I think is going to happen is, honestly, they might just both win. I could really see that happening, but this is also the NWSL, and we have to be considerate of how much chaos there is.
I was going to say, that's what's so hard about NWSL predictions, especially in the playoffs, is anything can happen. And that is one of the things I love most about soccer and women's soccer, is like nothing is guaranteed. Anything can happen.
And all the teams kind of that were fighting for a playoff spot were super close for a little bit up until last week. That just kind of came down to Bay and Racing Louisville. So I wouldn't have expected Bay to be here given the beginning of their season. But with that said, they're also kind of peaking at the right time to make it into that spot.
Totally. And I was so wrong last week. I said Angel City was going to do it. And then not only did they not get the win, but Bay's win actually just eliminated them before they even played against Utah. Well, let's look at Kansas City. 2 weeks ago, Temwa Chwenga scored her 19th goal, which broke Sam Kerr's single-season scoring record. And then last weekend, she scored her 20th goal and became the first player to score against every opponent in a single season. Temwa is 7 goals ahead of Orlando's Barbara Banda in the Golden Boot race. So ultimately, she secured that title. Now, if she can do this all in her first year in the league, what can we expect from Temwa in year 2?
I don't even know, because you say, like, we're saying that she's conquered the NWSL because she scored against every team. What comes after conquering the NWSL? Yeah, but it's so crazy, and I absolutely love to see it. Again, going back to that Ballon d'Or snub, like, that is absolutely insane. But the sky is truly the limit for her. Like, maybe next year she aims to score multiple goals against each team. Like, I truly don't know, but we are so blessed to be living in an era that we could watch her just absolutely cook on the field. Her speed is so amazing, and the way that Kansas City uses her is so amazing, and it has really played to their advantage.
Well, I feel like all Casey needs to do is win a championship this year. And in Temwa's first year in the league, she will have done, I mean, maybe other than winning MVP and finals MVP, at this point, every year here on out is just trying to better herself and break her own records. Like, you already put yourself in a completely different league.
Like, in the next 5 years, like, maybe she'll go in net, honestly. Maybe try to get a shutout season. Like, in my eyes, she's Superwoman.
Well, let's stay with Kansas City because the Current tied the record for most goals scored in a single season at 54. With one game left in the season, they are likely to break it. And the Current did this in just their 4th year in the league. So are they the future of the NWSL? They have a lot going on for them. I mean, CBK Stadium is the first stadium built specifically for a professional women's team. They're definitely setting the bar when it comes to women's sports.
I think they're up there with the future. I mean, we do have to look back at the results that they've had. I think the first year they didn't do very well. And then the second they were runners up.
Mm-hmm.
And then they went back to not doing well. And now they're kind of top mid this year. I think they're 3 right now. I'm interested to see how they do in the playoffs. But I think given that they have their own stadium and the fans are insane, I think it was their 13th sold out match in a row that they just had this weekend. So obviously the market is there. They love it. We have great ownership and coaching behind it. So I'm really interested to see what they're going to do. And I think whatever it is, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, and they're in such a, like you said, such a special market that like KC fans just love their sports, no matter what.
And if you want, bring Taylor Swift into the conversation. I know we're both not Swifties, but let's say she's like, hey guys, go to a game. Like the impact that will have is massive. And the people already doing that, their impact has been massive. So their future is very, very bright, to say the least.
I agree. Well, actually, let's look on the international stage. Last weekend, Emma Hayes announced her 26-player training camp roster for the current FIFA international window. And the roster includes 18 members of the Olympic roster and 6 uncapped players, 3 of them making their first U.S. women's national team camp. You can tell based on the roster that this camp is a time for Emma to experiment with new and young talent. Logan, were there any names that surprised you?
Eva Gattino, I believe her is how you say her name. She plays in PSG, but that in my mind is telling me that Emma, we knew she was already looking at the international market or playing overseas, but she's looking there even more because she's kind of come up here and there, but hasn't really been as big of a name as, let's say, Corbin Albert playing with PSG. So I'm excited to see her. And also Alyssa Melanson. I'm not gonna lie, I had to Google her name. And even watching as much soccer that I have, for some reason, I haven't heard it before, but she was the first expansion pick for Bay, and she was doing really well at Auburn. So she's playing in the NWSL. I haven't really heard her name, but Emma clearly has. So you could tell that she's been looking at everybody, and there's a trend that these are really young players. So I'm excited to hear those, but also when Olympic players don't have to be on the roster, I don't know what that roster is going to be like, but it's going to be, I feel like, an amalgamation of just different players from different leagues, from different ages, different school, like everything.
What word did you just use?
Amalgamation. My mom used it growing up and it's stuck in my head.
What does that mean? Is it kind of like a smorgasbord?
A melting pot?
Okay, a smorgasbord.
A combination.
Amalgamation?
Wait, now I'm questioning my English.
No. I learned something new today. So that's like my key takeaway from this episode. Amalgamation?
Yeah, I believe it's another word for combination.
Okay, we're going with it. Well, thank you for teaching me something new today.
Anytime.
Well, let's close out the show. And as you all know, the foundation of Good Follow is that communities get built one good follow at a time. And each week, one of us will highlight a person, page, or brand as the Good Follow of the week. So Logan, you're up this week. Who is your Good Follow?
Alrighty, my good follow of the week is Shannon Domingsel, I believe is how you say it, at Shannon Domingsel on TikTok. She does social for the NFL and vlogs her days. So if you've ever seen a viral NFL moment on TikTok, she is most likely the one behind it. Let's take a look at one of her behind the scenes videos.
Come work Football Sunday with me at the NFL. So because I work for the league, we have to do every single game on a Sunday. So I'm not working for a particular team where I get to focus just on one game. It is every single game. There's too many things. Wait, that would have been so bad. 10:15. I think we're done.
Absolutely insane. I mean, I can barely keep up with Red Zone on NFL Sundays. It is way too much to me. I prefer to just watch one game, but she has to keep up with every single one and post about it. I just think that's honestly like having a superpower, but also as somebody who loves the NFL, I love to see women take up space in men's sports and be very, very good at it. So cool to see her running things, and she's funny with it. There was a moment when she was like, "Here, damn," when a lot of people were asking for a certain video, I think. And I think that reply went more viral than the video in question. So that is my good follow of the week. Everyone go follow at Shannon Domingsel on TikTok.
I love her. I follow her. Yeah, I just also to your point, like to do all of that on a day-to-day basis for your full-time job and then bring us behind the scenes with a vlog is so much work. And the fact that she does it consistently, and also I love her because she's another Filipino in sports and can sing her butt off. So definitely follow her on TikTok because you're going to get what's the word?
Amalgamation.
An amalgamation of content.
I was actually going to ask if you knew if she was Filipino or not.
I follow her. She goes by like Shani, right? Yeah, she will give you an amalgamation of content. So I love the good follow. And we want to hear from you, our fans. Who is your good follow?
Send your nominations to @GoodFollow Show and tell us why your good follow should be featured on our show.
Good Follow is brought to you by DraftKings. We will see you next week.